Hey everyone, Brendan Snyder here. How are you? Thanks so much for joining me and welcome to a special review for the brand new Rush box set called Rush 50. It's celebrating 50 years of the band. This one here is a 4 CD edition. There is an LP edition of this as well. And it is their first career spanning anthology covering something from every release, every live album, every studio album. It's on here. This just came out on March 21st of 2025. I'm going to do a full review, unboxing, get into the whole thing in just a bit. But if you are new to my channel and you haven't already hit the subscribe button, please do. Also leave a comment, hit like. All those things do help support my channel. I'd greatly appreciate it. And of course, as an added bonus, if you turn on notifications, you'll never miss an episode and stay up to date on really cool things like this, where we're talking about the brand new Rush box set, Rush 50. All right, so I want to jump back a bit and start with the early history of the band because it does play into this. First and foremost, the band formed in '68. So the idea of this box set being a Rush 50th anniversary, a 50-year celebration, doesn't quite fall in line, at least with my mind and what I think of as the anniversary of Rush. I'm going to get a little bit more into that in just a bit. But the band itself does form in '68. Alex Lifeson on guitar, John Rutsey on drums, and Jeff Jones on bass and vocals. A short time after that, though, Geddy Lee does replace Jeff Jones. It was actually at Jeff's suggestion that Geddy come in and replace him. Though the thing is that it didn't take very long, but by '69, Geddy was actually out of the band. This was due to their management suggesting it. The band fell in line and removed him, but only a few months later, they would ask Geddy to come back and rejoin. And they had a few more lineup changes where they brought in a second guitarist, but by about 1971, the band did stabilize as the trio, the way that we've always known them being. In '73, the band records their debut single, which had Not Fade Away. The Buddy Holly classic is the A-side, but the B-side was an original song, You Can't Fight It. That's included on this box set. Part of the reason I wanted to talk about these early years here. And in '74, then the band finally records their debut self-titled album with Alex Lifeson, John Rutsey, and Geddy Lee. However, 4 months after the album comes out, John, for health reasons, leaves the band and is replaced by Neil Peart, who is the permanent lineup for the next 40 years until the band hangs it up and retires in 2015. So this box set here, which says it's celebrating 50 years, like I said, it's not the formation of the band in '68, and it's not the first recording in '73. The hype sticker on the front of this thing says that it is '74 to 2024, and that's where they're getting their 50-year mark from. So presumably from the debut studio album, 1974 to present day, which, for me at least, the band broke up in 2015, so they haven't put out anything new, really unreleased of any kind, some unreleased live shows and stuff as part of deluxe editions. But to call it a 50-year and actually put the '74 to 2024 on it, a little bit of a misnomer on there. The band really still only had a 40-year recording history, as Rush 40 has previously stated when they did their live farewell tour at that time. All right, in all though, the band recorded 30 albums. They did 19 studio albums and 11 live albums. There was one EP as well. All 31 of those things are represented on the box set. And for me, that is a really cool thing. Oftentimes, a lot of these box sets are done and they leave out certain eras, certain albums. It's not the popular stuff, so they don't include it. And we do get something from all the different albums, eras, across the board. So everything's represented on the box set. And that is definitely a plus for this. So let's go ahead and dive in now and talk about the box set proper itself. So as I said, this version here is the 4 CD version of this. This is a career-spanning collection. There are 7 previously unreleased songs on here, including that 1973 single that I talked about, Not Fade Away and You Can't Fight It. Both those songs are on here. In fact, they kick this off. There are 2 non-album songs on here as well, ones that were never recorded and released on one of the Rush albums, Bad Boy and Garden Road. Those are both live versions from 1974. And there's also live versions with John Rutsey on drums, which is cool because we've never gotten that before. So we get Need Some Love and Before and After, both of those featuring John as the drummer. This box set also includes a couple vault versions. They're calling it that because of the alternate nature to the song having an alternate guitar solo on them. In all, though, there are 10 songs that are unreleased on CD. I don't know if the LP edition of this box set will read differently or not, but as far as what has appeared on a Rush CD, 10 of these tracks have not. So 50 tracks total, cool, ties in with the 50-year Rush 50 sort of thing. 40 are from studio and live albums that they released. 10 are the unreleased ones from CD. Track 50, though, is a repeat, and that bugs me a little bit, although I get why it's here, but it adds in Working Man and Garden Road. Those 2 songs have been or were, on the box set earlier in the play order. And so it's this version of it here at the very end, the last track, track number 50. It is the final live performance of Neil Peart with the band. And so again, I get it. It is historical. That's why it is part of it. But in reality, there are 48 distinct tracks on the box set, not 50. Disc 1, the first track that appears from an actual album is track number 9, Fly By Night. The prior 8 tracks are unreleased ones on CD, at least. They're either completely previously unreleased or unreleased on CD. So they're making their debut on this box set, and certainly a real treat for the Rush fans to be able to get that. I know that I myself am predominantly buying this for that content than the rest of the stuff that's on here. I do want to point out that a couple of those early live recordings are a bit subpar, especially the 2 tracks with John Rutsey on it. Arguably, again, included for historical reasons. I am glad to get it for that reason alone, but I will probably skip those tracks going forward. That goes for the 2 songs that kick this off, which are the original 1973 single, Not Fade Away. It's got Geddy Lee sounding like a woman on it, and he already had a high voice, but at least by the time they began recording in 74, they had found a way to capture his voice properly. But the very early on single version of this, it's almost unrecognizable as Geddy Lee. I really caught myself going, wait, who's singing here on this? So, it's there for historical reasons, but certainly these 2 tracks are not going to reinvent the band in any way. When I first found out there was an unreleased, or not so much unreleased, but 2 songs from a single that had never appeared on a Rush collection, box set, or anything like that, I got very excited about it as unreleased Rush material, thinking we finally had something new to sink our teeth into. Not really the case, just again, something that's there for historical purposes for the diehard. The track listing on here is chronological, so it's interesting. It does cover all eras of the band, but if you are only a fan of early stuff, later stuff, mid-period, whatever it might be, because the band has gone through a number of different eras, heavily into the prog, the more, pop soundings of the 80s, the synth-laden stuff from the 80s, into their heavier era of the 90s and early 2000s, and then coming back to their classic sound. By the end, you're going to have to skip through stuff or wait through stuff to get to what it is that you may like on this. What does help on this is that there's a mix, a switch up between live and studio material. And since they're grabbing something from each of the releases, after most of the albums would come out, they would release a live recording, chronicling, I should say, the live tour that supported that. And we're getting versions of stuff from that. Because they're doing that, they can actually pick and choose the songs that are the ones that are the live ones, jumping back in a band's career to grab something more at that point, instead of necessarily only giving you something right from that era. So we get the studio tracks, and then we get the other live recordings, and it makes it feel less chronological in that regard, because we are jumping around with the songs from when they were originally recorded. But in terms of release, this is chronological in that regard. I will say that, myself at least, I'm not a big fan of switching from hearing a studio song to a live song and back to a studio song. So that part of it, I'm not as into. But I know a lot of people love the live album, and you're getting that mixed in with it. They're very good live recordings, with the exception of those couple that have John Rutsey on it from the beginning. And I do think that the switch up between it does help create some peaks and valleys in the listening of this. So all in all, it does keep things, fascinating and interesting while going through it. I would have liked a few more alternate versions of things on here, those vault editions, or it could have been single edits. I'm not really sure why we've never seen demos from the band. I know that they didn't necessarily go and record outright demos. They would go into the studio and generally work up the stuff, but there must be some different takes of songs, some recordings of them as they were figuring them out. And I kind of would have liked to have had a little bit more of that, a little bit more of a sort of fly on the wall approach to things. We don't really get that here. Pretty much sticks to everything that you would expect within it, but still, with those 10 previously unreleased tracks on here, it's, makes this thing worthwhile. So let's go ahead and look at the box set. All right, so, this is the front cover of this thing, basically like an LP size, a bit bigger than that, but this is the version of the 4 CD that's in here. It's a hardcover book inside a slipcase, so we get that. As I flipped it over, you saw no track listing on the back side, but when this ships to you in the cellophane, or when you go buy it, it does have that on the back side, so you can see the track listing like that. Otherwise, you've actually got to open the book, flip all the way to the back of it. So I will probably cut this down, slip this in here so that I have that handy with it. I did already show you this, but just in case anyone wants to pause on this, I don't know if that's focusing or not, you can read the hype sticker. I love the hype stickers. 104-page hardcover book inside here. There's the front side of it. Written up by Rolling Stone editor David Frick, and it's got a ton of new art from Hugh Sim. And that's actually the most fascinating part that I have found with this. So right there off the bat, you can see that there's, new art like that in here. And then all throughout this, there's new worked up stuff like the beautiful art that we've always seen inside Rush albums. And here we kick off with the write-up that's in here. It's pretty large, scale text, making it not too, tiny to enjoy. I know I've seen a lot of these things that over the years, sometimes it's just too much. There's some great live shots, but surprisingly, there's not as many pictures of the band throughout here. In fact, we get to a point in the book where it is just a bunch of new art. I don't know if they're sort of priding themselves on all the band photos that are in here as maybe unreleased stuff, and that's why we don't get a ton of them. But it is kind of sparingly done, and I was a little surprised by that. This one is a great live shot here. I want to flip specifically now towards the back of this, because the write-up stops about that far into it. So you still got that much book that then just becomes, alternate versions of big Rush style art by Hugh Sim. Every page in here after that is full of unique versions of what could be album art. I love this. It's always been one of my favorite things is the cool album art that they have had. And we get different versions. And if you look into these, you will see, different things from throughout their career hidden in here. So these kind of look maybe generic when you're seeing it at the scale you are right now, but you really have to look at these and look at all the little Easter egg type things. And so basically they're covering a lot of different tracks in here with each of this. Every time you turn this, you're seeing something that references the next song. So in a way, you've got that as your track listing in here. I'm going to flip to the back of this now and just show you. Very back of it, you do get information on each of the tracks, recording, where it comes from, that sort of stuff. And then all the way in the very back of it is where the 4 CDs are in this case, and they just slide out from this thing. But that is how this is. It's not my preference in terms of how these are done. I generally prefer either a true box set where I can take out the CD in another sleeve and have that. Even if it's in the book, I still prefer each disc to have a sleeve. I don't often like to leave these sitting out. I know this is designed more like a coffee table style book. I get that if you are a casual Rush fan, you're going to leave it on your coffee table. It's a pretty cool thing. But for those of us that have huge music collections that want to pull these out to listen to it, the individual sleeve is always very nice in my opinion. All right, so bottom line on this, I think if you're a Rush fan, you're going to love the box set. 10 rarities on it is probably why most Rush fans would be buying it. Outside of that, though, I do think that, it doesn't have a lot of stuff on it that we don't already have in some way, shape, or form. Remember, 40 of those tracks taken from studio and live albums that have already come out. And again, far too many live recordings overall on this. In order to make up the 50 tracks, I get it, with 19 studio albums, you've only got a certain amount that you can select from in terms of the studio aspect. They're trying to hit the 50 track mark on it. How are they going to do it? They're going to do it with those rarities and additional live recordings. But that back and forth from studio to live, and there's definitely more, or at least I feel, I didn't actually do a count, but I feel like there's more live recording on here than studio, yet they had more studio albums than live albums. I think the box set itself definitely appeals more towards the diehard Rush fan. I don't think it's meant for the general Rush fan. That's okay. It's doing a little bit of a lip service for the Rush fan. And that's kind of cool. We as Rush fans finally are getting some cool unreleased stuff. They kind of barely done that with the deluxe edition reissues of the albums, adding in only an unreleased live show, of which there's tons of live material already out there from the band. So I never really felt like I was getting anything really all that fantastic as part of those. With this box set, they make up for it quite a bit. The box set on its own, though, if we just kind of look at it as what it is, I do think it is very good. It's a great chronology of the band covering all the different eras. And that, like I said, a lot of bands don't do that when they're putting these sort of things together. It covers the first lineup with John in it. It includes unreleased material on here. It really shines a light on the whole career of Rush. And that, again, pretty cool thing, not omitting any of the errors. All in all, I do think the box set is successful, worthwhile, at least to the Rush fan base. And there you go. That is my box set review for Rush 50. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Certainly weigh in. Let me know your thoughts if you have picked this up. If you have any pluses or minuses to it, maybe. But if not else, hopefully this review helped make a decision for you as to whether you would like to pick this up or not. But definitely check it out. See what you think, as my take on this can only go just so far. All right, everyone. Take care. Have a good one. And I'll talk to you real soon. Bye-bye.